freedom. It is a word that has echoed through history, carried in the speeches of revolutionaries, whispered in the hearts of the oppressed, and celebrated by those who believe they have attained it. But have we truly understood what it means to be free? Or have we only wrapped ourselves in the illusion of freedom, a comforting idea that hides the invisible chains we carry every day? Before we go deeper, I want to invite you, if reflections like this move you, if you value philosophy and the art of self-understanding, to subscribe to this channel. Together we explore ideas that awaken something deeper within us, ideas that help us see the world not as we are told it is, but as it truly might be. Your support helps this message reach more minds who are also searching for truth. Now, let's return to the question, are you free or do you only think you are? When we say we are free, what do we usually mean? Most people equate freedom with the ability to choose, to decide where to live, what to do, what to buy, and whom to love. And yes, in a superficial sense, these are aspects of freedom. But beneath that layer, there lies a subtler, more profound question. Who is making these choices? Is it truly you, your conscious, rational, autonomous self? Or is it the sum of influences, fears, and desires that have been shaping you since childhood? A person who acts according to every impulse may feel free, yet they are the most enslaved of all. Enslaved not by governments or institutions, but by their own unexamined mind. True freedom, as the Stoics taught, is mastery over oneself, to command one's own thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But how many of us live by that truth? How many can go a single day without being carried away by the tides of opinion, the storms of social media, or the need for validation? We live in a time when freedom is loudly declared, but quietly abandoned. Consider this. You wake up in the morning, reach for your phone, and begin scrolling. Instinctively, your mood shifts according to what you see. A headline angers you. A post makes you envious. A video distracts you. You didn't choose any of that consciously. It all happened before you even realized it. That is not freedom. It is conditioning disguised as choice. The philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau once wrote, "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains." He referred not only to political systems, but also to the invisible chains of conformity and habit. We are shaped by expectations, from family, culture, religion, and society. And yet we call ourselves free because no one is visibly forcing us. But the most effective prisons are the ones that make you believe you are not inside one. Think about the last major decision you made. Perhaps changing jobs, choosing a partner, or pursuing a dream. Were those choices truly yours? Or were they subtly influenced by what others expected of you? Sometimes what we call freedom is just obedience in disguise, obedience to trends, to social approval, to the invisible rule that tells us what a successful life should look like. This illusion of freedom is powerful because it gives comfort. It allows us to live without the pain of confronting our own conditioning. But true freedom begins the moment we question that illusion, the moment we realize that liberation is not an external state, but an inner conquest. To understand this more deeply, imagine a bird in a vast cage. The cage is large enough that the bird can fly in circles, stretch its wings, and even forget for a while that the bars exist. But the limits remain. The bird may call itself free because it can move, but its movements are confined by boundaries it cannot see when it doesn't look closely enough. Many of us are like that bird, moving, deciding, consuming, thinking, yet within invisible limits set by our upbringing, our fears, our desires, and the opinions of others. Philosophers and mystics across centuries have agreed on one thing. The greatest slavery is the slavery of the mind. The Buddha called it attachment. The Stoics called it passion. Modern psychologists call it conditioning. But the essence is the same. The loss of sovereignty over one's inner world. To be free, then, is not simply to do what you want. Because often what you want has been programmed into you by forces you don't even see. Advertising, culture, comparison, they shape your desires. So you chase symbols of freedom, money, status, independence, yet end up more anxious, more burdened, more alienated. What kind of freedom is that? True freedom demands awareness. It demands silence. It demands the courage to stop running and ask, why do I want what I want? This question alone can shatter illusions that took years to build. When you begin to see how much of your life is driven by unconscious imitation, you start to glimpse what inner liberation could mean. Take, for example, the person who defines success by material wealth. They might say, I am free to build my own destiny. Yet their entire concept of destiny is borrowed from parents, society, or culture. So they chase a dream that isn't theirs, and when they achieve it, they feel strangely empty. That emptiness is the echo of a truth ignored. You cannot be free when living someone else's script. The Stoics believed that freedom is inseparable from virtue, from living according to reason, integrity, and self-mastery. Epictetus, who was born a slave, taught that even in chains a person could be free if their mind remained unshaken. Conversely, a person with all material liberty could be utterly enslaved if they lacked control over themselves. His words echo through time. No man is free who is not master of himself. In our world, we equate freedom with abundance, of choices, of options, of opportunities. But abundance can become its own prison. When everything is possible, nothing feels meaningful. When every path is open, commitment becomes terrifying. The paradox of modern freedom is that the more options we have, the less capable we are of choosing. And when choice becomes a burden, we long for someone to choose for us, to tell us what to do, what to believe, how to live. That is how free societies slowly drift toward control, not through tyranny, but through fatigue. Real freedom requires the discipline to choose consciously. It is the ability to say no to distractions, to conformity, to impulses. It is to act from reason, not reaction. The one who cannot say no is not free, even if no one commands them. The journey toward freedom begins with awareness of what controls you. And often, the first realization is uncomfortable, that most of what you think, feel, and desire has been planted in you. Yet this discomfort is not defeat, it is awakening. Once you see the cage, the bars begin to weaken. So, ask yourself, what rules my life without my permission? What habits have become invisible masters? What beliefs have I never questioned, though they dictate my choices? These questions are not pleasant, but they are the beginning of truth. Because freedom is not found by adding more, but by removing illusions, dependencies, fears. The freer you become inside, the less you need from the outside. Freedom is not granted. It is claimed, moment by moment, thought by thought. And the greatest act of rebellion in a world that profits from your distraction is to be fully conscious. And that is where the journey truly begins. Freedom, in its truest sense, begins where illusion ends. Yet illusion is seductive because it is comforting. It tells you that everything is fine, that your choices are your own, that you are the captain of your ship. But if your compass has been handed to you by others, by culture, algorithms, or unexamined fears, then are you truly steering? Or are you merely following a path that has already been drawn for you? The tragedy of modern life is not that people are unfree. It is that they mistake comfort for freedom. They believe that because they can choose between 1,000 brands, 1,000 lifestyles, or 1,000 screens, they are liberated. But choice without consciousness is chaos. It is noise disguised as autonomy. When the ancients spoke of freedom, they meant something deeper. Not the right to do anything, but the power to do what is right. They understood that the untrained mind is like a restless horse, running wherever desire pulls it. The free person, then, is not the one who has no master, but the one who has learned to master himself. Let's imagine a person who lives by impulse. When they are angry, they lash out. When they are sad, they seek distraction. When they are bored, they scroll endlessly, consuming the lives of others. To them, this feels like freedom. The freedom to act as they please. But if every emotion commands their behavior, then who is really in control? Their freedom is an illusion. Their emotions have become their rulers. Self-mastery does not mean suppression. It does not mean denying your humanity. It means understanding the inner forces that move you, so they no longer move you blindly. It means seeing your anger without becoming it, noticing your fear without obeying it. This is not easy work. It requires silence, reflection, and patience. Virtues that the modern world rarely rewards. But it is only through this inner work that freedom can be born. The philosopher Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of concentration camps, once wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose. That space, however small, is where freedom lives. No matter the circumstances, no one can take from you the ability to choose your attitude, your response, your inner direction. Freedom, then, is not something granted by society. It is something discovered within consciousness itself. Think of all the ways in which we surrender that space. Every time we react without thought, we give away a piece of our freedom. Every time we let fear decide for us, we become a little more enslaved. Every time we silence our own voice to please others, we lose the quiet authority of our soul. And every time we define ourselves by comparison, we hand over the keys of our identity to someone else's opinion. To live freely is to reclaim that space, again and again, until it becomes the very center of your being. But there is another layer to this idea, one that many overlook. Freedom is inseparable from responsibility. A person cannot truly be free without accepting the weight of their choices. Many people fear freedom not because they dislike it, but because it demands accountability. It means you cannot hide behind excuses, or fate, or circumstance. You must own your life, the victories and the failures alike. Existentialist philosophers like Sartre called this the burden of freedom. We are condemned to be free, he said, meaning that once we realize that our life is ours to shape, we can no longer pretend otherwise. Every decision carries meaning. Every inaction is a choice, and the awareness of that truth can be both liberating and terrifying. Modern society tries to ease that burden by offering distractions. We are told that meaning can be bought, that happiness is a subscription, that fulfillment is a brand. The less we think, the more we consume, and the more we consume, the more we forget to think. But deep down, the soul knows that this is not freedom. It is anesthesia. It is the quiet death of awareness. Real freedom often feels heavy. It demands that we confront ourselves, our contradictions, our fears, our limitations. But in doing so, it gives us back something far greater, the ability to live with intention. When you act from intention rather than impulse, your life begins to align with something higher, something true. You begin to experience what the Stoics called ataraxia, tranquility of the soul. It is not the absence of struggle, but the mastery of it. To see this clearly, let's look at two lives. The first is a person who appears to have everything: wealth, status, comfort. They can travel anywhere, buy anything, and live without rules. Yet they are restless. They chase one excitement after another, never satisfied. Their thoughts are scattered, their emotions unpredictable. They have all external freedom and no inner peace. The second is a person who lives modestly, perhaps even under difficult circumstances. Yet they are calm, steady, and unshaken by fortune. They choose their responses, guard their time, and remain faithful to their principles. Outwardly, they may seem restricted. Inwardly, they are sovereign. Which one, then, is truly free? Freedom is not the absence of limits. It is the wisdom to choose the right ones. Every meaningful life requires boundaries, the discipline that keeps us from being ruled by chaos. A musician is only free to create beautiful music within the limits of rhythm and harmony. A painter expresses themselves fully only within the frame of the canvas. Likewise, the soul finds its greatest freedom not in rejecting all order, but in aligning with the order that gives it meaning. To live freely is to know what deserves your obedience. Freedom without direction leads to emptiness. Discipline without awareness leads to oppression. The art of life lies in balancing both, to follow your higher reason rather than your lower impulse. This understanding transforms how we see the world. Suddenly, freedom is not something others can take from you, nor something that politics or society can define. It becomes an inner quality, an awareness that no external force can touch. You could be in a cell and remain free, as Epictetus was. You could be surrounded by comfort, and yet remain enslaved, as many are. Freedom, then, is not a condition. It is a state of consciousness. And yet, even this inner freedom is not achieved once and for all. It is a lifelong practice. Every day, you will face the choice between awareness and automaticity, between peace and distraction, between truth and comfort. Freedom grows every time you choose awareness, every time you pause before reacting, every time you return to yourself. If there is one message to take from this reflection, it is this: you are not as free as you think, but you are far freer than you believe. The difference lies in attention. What you are aware of, you can master. What you ignore will master you. Start small. Notice the moments when you act out of habit rather than intention. Notice how often fear, vanity, or impatience whisper their commands. Do not judge yourself for it. Simply observe. Observation is the first act of liberation. Through it, you begin to separate the true self, the quiet witness within, from the noise of your conditioning. In that separation, something remarkable happens. You begin to choose. And in choosing, consciously and calmly, you begin to live. Freedom, ultimately, is not a destination, but a direction. It is not found in the world outside, but in how you relate to it. To be free is to meet life with open eyes, to see clearly, to act wisely, and to remain inwardly untouchable, no matter what comes. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Change your judgments, and the world changes with them. That is freedom. That is sovereignty. So perhaps the real question is not whether you are free or not, but whether you are willing to awaken. Because once you awaken, you can no longer live as before. You begin to see the invisible walls. You begin to feel the weight of your own choices. And though that awareness may bring discomfort, it also brings dignity. It brings meaning. It brings life. The chains that hold us are often made of thoughts, but the key has always been in our hands. You are not just a product of what has happened to you, or what society expects of you. You are the thinker of your thoughts, the observer of your emotions, the author of your destiny. And when you begin to live from that truth, calmly, consciously, courageously, no one can imprison you again. That is freedom. Not loud, not defiant, not easy, but deep, quiet, and unshakable. And it begins the moment you stop asking, "Am I free?" and start living as if you are.